Good morning. Welcome to Just Talking 24, page 75. This morning I'm going to talk about a tactic that we all use. It's used in and anything with there's adversary when they get two sides. Yeah. We use it in sports, we use it in recreation, we use it in politics, we use it all over the place. And it's called the fake misdirection. When you play sports, right? If you see the receivers and the DBs, the defensive backs, the guy gives him a head fake, and then the guy bites on it, and he cuts the other way. Yeah, it's just misdirection. And it used to be done very subtly. Growing up, there was a lot of misdirection, and we never knew about it. Like I go back to Kennedy's assassination. That was a misdirection. That was done so that the the nation would focus on something while something else is happening on the other side. And what happened on Kennedy's one? It comes to find out was the Vietnam War. Lyndon Johnson took power, and he started. No, he didn't start. There was corruption before that, but it was subtle back then. And then it got worse, and it got worse, and I think the worst one is the COVID. Actually, they tried the other one with the with that virus on the ship, which was quickly stuffed out. Could you think about it, right? Okay, this is a that Henta virus or whatever is a very specific virus, and to test for it, you need a very specific test. And yet, they found out that these three people died on it on a ship. Now, how did they find that out? The ship's doctor is that good, and and the shipping lines spent so much money on their lab that they can have that exact test for that type of virus. Yeah, that didn't work out. and then like I said, after that they got the 18 people, and then they were going to isolate them. Well, when you isolate them, like I said, you put them on top of the East Coast or someplace where they're isolated. You don't put it smack dab in the middle of the United States. You know, makes no sense. But see, people are wising up to that. I just went to my doctor's yesterday, and the nurse that takes your vitals and stuff like that, she asked, oh, you took your COVID shot? I said, no. She goes, oh, you want to take the COVID shot? I go, no. And she goes, okay, but I got to ask, why? You know, they're going to milk that sucker as long as they can, right? COVID, COVID, COVID. Oh, shoot. But yeah, that's misdirection. Yeah. Like my two conspiracies. Pearl Harbor, misdirection. 9/11, misdirection. You know, coronavirus, misdirection. Oh, everything is a misdirection. And it used to be very subtle, like I told you. Either that, or I used to be very stupid, and I think I feel I'm going the other way. I'm getting more stupid as I get older. You know, the neurons are dying in here. Yeah, once the brain cells die, they can't be regenerated, and I lose millions, if not billions, a day. But it's just that we don't. I don't know if we don't care, or people see the futility of it. It's just futile to even try. They just lost the spirit of fighting. I mean, you get the guys with ice and all this kind of crap, protesting, and that's a hype because that's media, and media is run by, that's misdirection. That's the capital of misdirection, mass media. But it's happening all around, and it's At least I got to see, like I said, at least I got to see the U.S. when we were on top, you know. And but then you also get to see it when it's going down. And this year we make 250. I keep telling you that 250, and that's what the experts say. Between 250 and 300. Now this isn't exact numbers, okay? Don't uh, you know don't tell me that I said that. No, statistics show that as a general tendency between 250 and 300 years. Now, 50 years, that's three generations. This isn't an instantaneous type of thing. It's over three generations that, that's the range. But if you can see the different generation, it's really each generation from baby boomers to what, I don't know the different names. I know you got millennials, you got Gen X, and stuff like that. But I don't know what the years are and everything. I know I'm a baby boomer. Yeah, that's because after the war, guys came back and they came back very amorous, and the opportunities were there. And yeah, and it wasn't that flagrant, the misdirection, because we were still building. We were making money over money. But then as money gets tight and it got too greedy, people got too greedy. There's only so much that you need. But people, what we call hoitobo in Japanese, greedy. Every language there's a word for greedy. Yeah, you know. Funny, but I don't know of any in Hawaiian. You know why? Because when you got nothing, you can't be greedy, right? No, we had a lot. We have the land, we have the weather, and we have each other. That's a lot. That's all you need, really. Teddy Randazzo in his song "Richer Than I." He had the sun, he has the rain. And he has someone who loves him, and that he'll love them till he dies. And so the song says, "So you see, none can be richer than I." And wealth, that's not a misdirection. Your wealth is what you understand, is what you appreciate, you know, and misdirection takes you away from that. Remember, I tell people complexity, power loves complexity because then you don't find the truth. The complexity is the misdirection. Yeah, everything has misdirection, everything. It's just that it's more flagrant today. And well, I don't know if it's more flagrant today or I can just identify it more because it's not hidden anymore. See, I always knew it was there. And I mean, that's no brag because like I told you, I used to hang around the older guys. And a lot of the older guys are the guys that actually did those things. And as they drink, like I said, the liquor makes their tongue a little bit looser, and I would be privy to a lot of stuff. And so a lot of the stuff they talk about was the dirt, what was and you see what's happening, but you can't, and they tell you don't act on it, 'cause, not if you want to live, because if you blow the whistle, go look at what happens to whistleblowers today, right? Yeah, and even though they chastise them, they run them to the ground. Whistleblower, it's bad thing to say the truth. It's bad thing to stick your finger in the dike. It's a bad thing to say that the president don't have any clothes. Although this president, they love to say he's naked, but he can afford clothes. Isn't that neat? Yeah. All the rest of the presidents all were naked and we never knew it. And now this one they're trying to say he's naked but he can afford the clothes. I'm talking symbolic, of course. Yeah. Well, maybe not. Brother can't afford some clothes. But it's so much different today. And this misdirection, it's a lot of work because, for one thing, you've got to get out of the river to understand, to identify the misdirection, to actually acknowledge that it does exist. When I tell people, talk like I talk to people, they're really, and I can't tell. I don't want to tell them you wrong, because once you say to somebody you wrong, there goes the wall. The wall is up. They're not going to listen after that. So how do you tell a person he's wrong without telling him he's wrong? You know what I mean? That's the catch 22. You don't want to tell the guy he's wrong, so you start giving him all these facts. But pretty soon, the natural defense mechanism comes up and they put up the wall. You know, they gotta want to know that. The they gotta want to know the truth, and a lot of them, like Jack Nicholson said, you can't handle the truth, and they cannot. And what the body and what the mind does when it gets that is the natural defense. Boom, denial. The river. I told you, everybody jumps in it. That's how powerful that river is, and that's how big and crowded it is. It's just a natural thing. You jump in it. And it's the ability to walk across it and get to the other side. Yeah, you gonna get wet, but you're not gonna stay in that river. You're gonna go through that river and get to the other side where it is the truth. And so, what is the truth? Yeah, more questions because they always ask, "Where's the proof? Where's the proof?" Right? And misdirection takes you away from the proof. Misdirection puts out false proof. Misdirection puts out is the head fake. So what you gotta do is you don't bite on the head fake. You just watch the body. You know, don't watch the head. Watch the body. Football. Well, I played line, so line was easier. There is no head fake, but you gotta watch. You gotta watch the blocking too, because sometimes they block down, and it's a counter play, or reverse, or a trap. I mean, there's all types of misdirection in football. I mean, there's everything. Soccer, when you get the free kick, the guy will try to give you what you think he's gonna kick to, and he'll give a fake or something, and you gotta if you bite and you bite wrong, bing, score. The only I think one of the only spots that they don't do that is golf. You cannot head fake because if you head fake, you hit a bad shot. Keep your head down, follow through. Because even tennis, try and guess where the guy's going to serve the ball. Try and guess what kind of spin he's going to put on the ball. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, but this misdirection, that's what you got to watch out for. And so how do you find it? That takes a lot of work. Well, I don't know, not that much today because, look at the Democrats, what they're doing. They chew up everything, you know, everything. And they say, oh, it's not our fault that the government's stopped. But yet they won't they won't vote. Okay. Not your fault, but you won't do anything, so it's not your fault. By not doing anything, that's not your fault. Yeah. That party, and it always, I don't want to say it always was like that, but it became like that. The corruption and the influence and the money just got really bad. Look at NCAA sports now. The players can get paid. There goes amateur. There goes, I asked my doctor about it the other day, and he said he actually says, oh, it'll work itself out. No, it won't. It'll just get It'll be bad. It essentially is going to become like farming camp or a farming team. And they said, well, they're going to the federal government to put caps because, yeah, it's, the schools with the biggest money. Our school, University of Hawaii, just asked for $5 million. 5 million so they can pay the players. That's not what education is about. You want to go make money, you prove you're good enough and go into the pros. That's what the pros are for. That's not what college is for. College is to learn, and what they're learning they can make money. You know, is that the education we want? But that's the education that they're getting. Look at these kids coming out with the toilet paper. All those words that I use, toilet paper, the river, sharpest tack, kiss, forest, all those words always that's how I got them, by studying how our society is becoming. And if you look, those terms are in everything. Everything. It's very sad. But yeah, but the river, toilet paper, I use Run Forest all the time on my ex. Run Forest, run. Stupid is as stupid does. And they're doing so much stupid that it's become the norm. You know, um, I just um, I just commented on tipping. You know, what people these servers are saying. Where's my tip? Where's my tip? What's with the tip? What did you do? Well, I brought your water. I brought your food. Well, what you supposed to do? Bring water, but I'm supposed to be tipped for instant reward. No, 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 no. You're getting paid, and if you're not getting paid, then you go to the Federal Labor Board and you report your boss to the Labor Board, and they will get after your boss with giant fines, and your boss knows that, so he's paying you. And I don't know how they can get by paying the people less than minimum wage. Although, they say, oh, I only make $2.13 an hour, which I think is bullshit. But yeah, after taxes, oh yeah, that's what you may end up making. And for that, you got to thank Uncle Sam. When you go to Vegas and you're from Hawaii, yeah, whatever you win over what, $1,142 or something like that. Yeah, if you do your proper taxes and you don't have any deductions or anything, Uncle Sam and the state take almost 67%, because Uncle Sam takes 48% for winning, and the state takes 16%, which is 64%. 64% is two-thirds of what you want. So if you win $1 million, you're only gonna walk away with 300,000. The rest goes for taxes. you know, they don't care how much money you spend making that, that $3 million or whatever, or $1 million. They don't care about that. Those if you spend enough for write-offs. I've never done that. I've never written off my losses because a lot of the losses are not supposed to have that kind of money anyway. See everybody cheating everybody else. But it's money that you saved and you went over there and you had fun. My friend just came back from Vegas and he said, slow. He said, you remember weekends how packed used to be? He goes, no. Walk down, you walk down Fremont Experience, get more bums than anything. He says, yeah, everything is money, money, money. They went to that Ferris wheel, the giant Ferris wheel. Parking was $100 for 4 hours. Parking to park your car. I said, well, you guys just never to catch cab. I mean, that if it's that kind of money, I would catch a cab, or Uber or whatever it is. And that's that's how that Vegas is gonna kill itself because the money. Just Steve Wynn years ago. This is like maybe 40 years ago when Steve Wynn opened up, or 30 years ago. And his novel idea was every department of my operation is going to make money. And I heard that and I read that and I said, okay, well, Vegas was fun. And it took about 30 years, but yeah, it's going down. And I don't know if they can ever, they put a big ball there, the sphere, and they brought, pro teams inside, but even that's going to get old, folks. Once the greed come in and there goes, and the diversion is gone, all the bells and whistles, they're taking them out. Before you could walk along, you walk along the strip, and you had you had the Mirage with the volcano, you had Treasure Island with the show, you got, but well, I think you still got Bellagio with the fountains. But all of these that's diversion. You walk into a casino, they have a very noisy carpet. Why? And then they have a noisy roof. Or the roof is really high so you don't really look up. Why? So that you keep your focus along the level. It's all psychological. It's all, yeah. And that's diversionary. They want your attention. They put the buffets way in the back of the casino. Why? So that you gotta walk through the casino. More diversion. Diversion is all over the place. We're not aware of what it is. And then once you become aware, you know, after you look at, like, especially, well, I used to go Vegas all the time. And we used to always go because there was a new casino opening. And they had, what was, well, from downtown, we used to, Stardust, had Stardust, Caesars, Sands, but then they started with the themes, the circus. Well, Caesars was always Caesars, but Excalibur, New York, Luxor, all those Paris, all of those were different themes. Venetian, you go inside and you look, wow, hey, the interior is really something, and it got you there. Well, they stopped that now. And once you stop that, once you take away the bells and the whistles and the diversion, and people see what it is, they don't want to go. They don't want to go. Yeah, they're going to. I heard Tennessee's starting to build up all of their attractions. Yeah, the attractions are starting again. Walt Disney priced itself out because, well, not only because of its prices, because of its political views. It turned a lot of people off, and even they're hurting, and they're gonna hurt even more. But phew, old man Walt Disney, old man Disney, man, he must be flipping. But yeah, diversion. I don't know how to get out of it. It takes a lot of work, and the thing is, you become very skeptical, very cynical, and I don't like the person I'm becoming, and I am becoming that person. See, that's the thing, when you're so used to looking through the BS, and you see what's happening, and I don't like the way I am, but I'm trying to stay positive. I try to, yeah, hippie, hippie, joy, joy. But it's hard. Oh, and I do this without drugs. Please help me. But anyway, yeah, in your own life, little by little, you got to do baby steps. Yeah. And you're not going to like what you see. I'm going to tell you right now. Right now, I'm going to tell you honestly. You won't like what you see. But if you can make your own world better, it makes it more tolerable. You learn, you so you so concentrate, no, not concentrating, you're so taken up with the time it takes to bend the stuff so that it makes it more pliable to your liking. Yeah, it makes life more doable, more endurable. But anyway, yeah, this wasn't a really positive thing, right? But I had to say it. I have to say it. I don't know what next week's gonna be. Let's see what happens. But it's been a fun week. It always is. Every week is fun. What? Never ask the question, what's next, right? But you guys just take care of everybody. Um, Despite all of this, like, subscribe. Yeah, sometimes sometimes we all need kicks in the butt to, we got to take the bad with the good, the balance, right? I talked about balance, and you can see, like, like diversion, balance is in everything. And I just thank the powers that be. I thank God. Still here to see you guys, and wish you a very great week. Summer's here. Yep, we in June, hurricane season. Get your emergency preparedness. Yeah, you drink of water and your cyanide pill. Well, it depends where you live, right? But you have a great week. Love you, and ahui ho, malama pono, and always from my heart to yours. Aloha. Bye bye. Take care. Love each other.